All right. I told you I'd get back to you because I couldn't read that other one. I read it to you in hand, but I wanted to read it to you and for you to see it. All right. So we're going to get right into it. Part two with Albert Pike. Let me move my little, uh, let me move you. There we go. I'm moving my picture out of my way. Now let's get down to it. We're getting down to it. All right. Let's get down to it. All right. Well, I told you that there's parts in here I wanted to read. And here we go. We wanted to talk about the very first um, wars. I told you I wanted to read about it, right? So the First World War. I told you this goes hand in hand. We're going to have some things that are different. If I need to switch things up, I will. So the First World War was brought in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and making the country a fortress. Ath, 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 how do you say it? Atheistic communism. Theistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between British and Germanic empires will be used to foment the war at the end of the communism, right? At the end of the war, communism would be used to be built in order to destroy the governments in order to weaken the religions. This right here was one of the things that I know that when you break kind of deep dive into Germany in between World War One or two, the German purposes, they understood the Zionists started this war to bring communism, and they were not about communism. The Germans, and a lot of the things that we have been taught, you really need to go look at. Not everything appears to be what it appears to be, as we've seen. You think about esoteric and exoteric. They give you what to believe in the exoteric, outside yourself. They give you what they seem suitable for the public, which is nothing but crumbs off the master's table for you to eat. Even you get the crumbs off the master's table, which is even a scripture at a later time, right? That'd be them. This goes hand in hand with the demiurge too. So, and then as you go down, students, it would help them destroy other governments and to weaken the religion. Students of history to recognize the political alliance of England on one side and Germany always on the other, even though one's a child of the other. Forged between 1871 and 1871 was another big thing in history. This is when the war had ended and the North and the South United States Civil War ended. Think about it. When has the paradox of when is war really civil? Civil War, when is it civil? Right, it's not. But anyways, there's your paradoxy and the duality society, right? Of the reality of what pushed. So 1871, war over, North wins, the Feds win, which really was the Feds, and connected to the Feds. And actually this would be the Republicans that had won because the Democratic or the democracy side, have you looked at the video I did, the demiurge, it was connected to democracies in it. You remember that? We read that. Remember, put this with the demiurge in order, right? Is that they were bankrupt. Both sides were bankrupt. That allowed the American or European bankers to come up and assert their authority because they control both sides of a war, paying for both sides to get what they want out of it. That's the way it works. If you don't know, you should know. Most know that, but of course some don't. But some are waking up to this. That really this was a time when the United States had to sign to the bankers, and the stipulation that was given was, get this, you're no longer a country, you're a corporation, a corpse, a corporation. This is when it officially, it's not been a country for 150 years, 53, I believe. And most don't know that, hoping that it will. Something will come and get us into balance and stop the nonsense and the foolishness we see going on now. But keep reading. This will make sense to what I just said. So it became in 1871 a country to a corporation. Former country to a corporation now. No longer a country, but actually a corporation. That's a whole different game. Another thing is, in 1776, when we had our July 4th celebration of the starting of the country, on the very same year, I guess 33 days earlier, interesting amount of days on that 33 Albert Pike, leaving out the 33 degree in his book. Ooh, think about this. The more I read it, the more I start revelating and starting piecing other things together, like I did with Hitler. Hitler was very aware of the European bankers too, and the communism and the Zionist communism starting in the Tsar War, right? This is an Albert Pike playbook, right? Second World War. Take advantage of the differences between the fascism and political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that the Nazism destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel-Palestine, which we see. During the Second War, international communists must become strong in order to balance the Christendom, which be then restrained and held in check until time we would come to need it for a final social kill. Wow. That's not surprising to me. That makes sense. Always cause the problem and then be the doctor who cures, give you the poison and be the doctor who comes with the medicine to save you. Always their playbook. Recognize it, decode and learn. Decode and learn. During the Second War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which we just read, held in darkness of the cataclysm. After the Second World War, communism was made strong enough to begin. No, we're not there yet. So after Nazism. So in the Second World War, communism was strong enough to take over weaker governments, and in post Dam Conference in 1945, after the war, I bet, Truman, Churchill, and Stalin, England, U.S., and Italy, large portion of Europe was just simply given to the Russians. They didn't try to help them. They just said, East Europe is your Soviet Union. All those areas around that, it's yours. You're the Iron Curtain now. Yeah, games within games. I see it, man. And on the other side, the world in the aftermath of the war with Japan was swept the tide of communism into China. That's interesting because it was, I think, in the early 50s that the switch for China came. And then now we see North Korea as part of that too, communism. Yeah, that's horrible stuff that these, especially, I'd say both sides, the what we've seen, just crazy, and it went North Korea. But the Third World War must be fomented to taking advantage of the difference caused by the agentur of the Illuminati agent. Remember, it's mentioned that earlier, of the Illuminati between the political Zionist. One more time, political Zionist. Have you ever heard a religious Jew break down political Zionism? You should go find that out. You'd be surprised. Not all things seem to be what they are. This war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Kickoffs began. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, economic exhaustion. You see it now. Guys get strong. That's because you got to feed you. This really hits on you. You've got to build you to the next level. There's something coming about building yourself to the next level, because this is a war for us here. And they want to exhaust you in all different levels. Economical, we see it. Spiritual, moral, physical. We see all those 4 levels, physical, moral, spiritual, happening, and it's been happening. Goes along. We shall unleash nihilists and atheists, and they shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which all its horror, I wonder if that's opening the borders where that's going to come, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of sovereignty of the most beautiful, bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world's minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianities whose deistic spirits will from the moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration. That will be them stepping in to get to be again. We cause the problem, but we're here to save you. Mighty Mouse is here again. That's them. Superman's here again. That's when in the why? How do I know? Will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought out in the public view. This manifestation will result to a general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered or exterminated at the same time. That's the plan, huh? Another and I'll stop there because he's going to go in his opinions. Whoever wrote this article, and I really don't care about his opinions. You can go, well, how would they know this and how would they know this? Because they plan well. You're missing the boat, guy. But anyways, I don't want to even harp on him. I just wanted to read. This is what was in the book by Albert Pike in 1871. This was in his book. How would he know these things in his book? So this guy was trying to say they added these words because nobody heard of Zionism and nobody heard, but it was in the plan because really Zionism would start like 100 years later, but they plan a couple of hundred years apart. They're out, they're planners and a half. They're organized. That's why they have orders of Illuminati, or orders of the CIA, orders of the Freemason. Everything's in order. Orders of the Jesuits. They're orderful bunch of planning group. That's what they do. I'm telling you, you got to put yourself in order because you've seen the four aspects they're attacking us as, and you can see the finances are becoming hard, right, with all this. So, and then you might ask, what do you think we should do? And I just wanted to follow up and read that because it didn't come across some reason. Then the link on the first video, it wasn't showing that story, and that's the one I wanted to read along with. In the first one, I read the Wikipedia story, which I said go read in depth about him, and you'll kind of get the clue who he was, what he was during this last few years when they had all this stuff going down, right? His statue was one of the ones that was tore down and destroyed by they're doing. So they're really, pushing, destroying Christianity and atheism almost at the same time. And then they're going to come in with their New World Order, pushing that, which, in there talks about Antichrist and, that. Be on your P's and Q's. I'm talking about it's time to wake up to the next level and use this. This was part 2 of the Albert Pike experience, right? That we were talking about Albert Pike experience, but that's something else because I know a little bit more about. I have been reading and indulging in Robert Seffer, and he was bringing down. I just recently had read and learned about that how during that late 1800s, that the fall of the Tsar leading to World War II, the Russian Revolution, how many people were killed? It's horrible. And that's why when you go back, snap back, and you find out some of the things that went on with even I would share this video with Russia, because that's in the late 1800s or so. Then here you go in the 1920s that Hitler and Germany knows what happened in Russia, and they, in their mind, well, this ain't happening to us. It ended up happening to half of them, right? Because half of Eastern Germany ended up being the bloc of the Soviet Union. It was the wall, it was the Berlin Wall, right? Separating the East and the West being still so-called free or whatever. But as you see, this aspects of this was planned, and he was aware of it. And also, I had known that the Zionists were completely behind that Russian Revolution, and he knew that. That's why his little take on Zionism, or what we call Kind of goes with it. And then as you start learning, I asked you guys, go look up some of the stuff that would you'll see um, with Albert Pike, and go look it up. And then the Russian Revolution, you'll find out, do some of your own research, what ended up happening. This would be another character, Sabbatai Zevi and the Franks, which is a whole different story about that happened in the 16th and 1800s with the with it's actually called, there's actually a great book in which they did was redemption through sin. So and that's a whole different story. I'll do that differently. This goes with it too, because it leads the Zionism into Russia aspect of Jacob Frank, and in that aspect of the Zionist. And go look at some of the Jews that are speaking out, that are religious Jews, and watch them talk about what Zion is. It's not what you think, buddies. They're not the same thing. It's just like it's almost like if I tell you, if you ask me, Danny, what's your ethnicity? And I said it's Baptist, and that's all I keep repeating, you'll go, well, no, that's your religion. That's that's where they blurred the lines. What is religion? What's that? The ethnicity in that, right? Anyways, you guys have a great day. I'm a little dark kind of. I should have turned that lighting above me, but at least I'm not totally mingling in like I used to. Like the white was so that, but I could see I need some more light on me as it gets darker during this recording. But I wasn't going to do two, but I really wanted you guys to read on the screen the first, second, and third wars in Dogmas and Morals. You guys have a great, eventful rest of your evening.